So we're looking at Steve's 1988 Blazer, and our molding here, the side trim, it's really damaged by the sun. It's looking terrible and it's starting to come off. So today I'm going to show you how to take this off nice and safe, put your other one on nice and straight. So stay tuned. All right, now when you get this, it comes all rounded up like this, and we need it nice and flat. So the first thing you're gonna do is take it out of the box, lay it down in the sun, let it get warmed up, and that'll help it flatten out, and that'll help it put it on the sides here. When it's all curly and stuff, it's gonna make your job more difficult. Now, one of the things that you run into when you're doing something like this is that once this comes off, it's difficult to see where did it go on. Now, in the back right here, there is a piece of molding that actually bolts on. So this is easy to tell, but the rest of them aren't so much. So what we're going to be doing is just taking some tape right here on the edge, and we'll mark where this is on the bottom and roll it around the edge, and we'll mark where it is on the top also. And the reason you got to do that is because when we take this off, we've got to clean this up so that our new tape sticks really well. So if we were to put tape at top and bottom here and then we cleaned it, then that tape would come off. So we'll just try to stay away from this right here. Now in this case, because this was painted right over the top, I can see where the lines are, so it's going to be easier on this one. But if you don't have that, you definitely want to do the tape. So I'll do that back here, and then on the doors and on the fenders, everything front and back, and that's just going to help me keep everybody in line. Now when you take these off, they sometimes just fall off because they're just barely stuck on there, but you do want to be careful when you're taking them off, because sometimes it can pull off flakes of paint and any body work you've got under there, Bondo or whatever. So sometimes it'll come off nice and easy. It's a good idea to get one of these plastic spatulas right here, and you can go ahead and gently take it off this way also. Some people like to use heat guns and to soften up the glue and the such. And you can also use wax and grease remover. You just simply shoot it on there, and it will cause the sticky stuff to get soft, and it'll make it easier to come off. So whichever you choose, just take your time with it a little bit so you don't do any damage underneath. Whatever you do, don't use anything really sharp or harsh like a screwdriver, because it is definitely going to do damage and definitely going to cost you some extra time and trouble. So right here, I can just pull that little lip right on out of there. I'm going to just try to stick that back in there so I don't have to mess with this guy. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of these off and get this all cleaned up, and then I'll show you how it goes back on. So we'll see you in a bit. So it takes a bit of time to clean up all of the old residue of glue that's on here. So they do sell these little round discs. You can put it on your drill, and then you just lightly spin it around, and it kind of takes the little residue and turns it into little booger BBs kind of thing, and they just fall on off. Unfortunately, I didn't go get one of those. So I've just been using a little bit of wax and grease remover that works really well. You can also use some brake clean on there, but you don't want to get too aggressive with it, because if you use something like acetone, for instance, it can eat your paint, make it fade away and such. So if you do have something that's pretty aggressive, maybe just test it in a spot you're not going to see. If you don't have one of those little round wheels like I was talking about, little rubber wheels, you can just get a piece of rubber, and then wherever you have that leftover residue, if you rub on it with the rubber, it kind of takes the little BBs, the residue, and curls them up and lets them fall off. So this is really going to be the more time-consuming thing, is just getting all your residue off, but you really need to get it off of there because we don't want any bumps in there or anything. We want this to lay down nice and flat, so we got to make sure that we are all nice and flat that we're putting it on. So I'm going to get this all cleaned up, and then I'll show you how to put it on nice and straight without too much trouble in just a minute. So you'll notice that I made marks in the front and back of everything, but really the main marks that I'm worried about or want to use is this one in the front and this one in the back. I just have these here just as reference points in the middle. And the reason that the front and the back are more important lines, if you will, is because a lot of times your doors will be off and your fenders for that much too. So you either have to take the time and get them dialed in perfect, which we don't have right now, or maybe your truck just won't dial in perfect because it got damaged or something like that. So we're not going to put the trim on uneven. We're going to basically kind of fake a straight line. So here you can see this doesn't line up that well. So if I was to do that down here, it wouldn't line up any better either. But I can kind of fool it, if you will, by simply putting the tape right on my first point, bringing this on back, and lining this up. So now when I put my trim on, the trim will be straight, and that'll basically give you the illusion that the rest of the truck is straight too. So I might do this 1 or 2 times to make sure I got it where I like it, and then I'll start cutting up pieces to put them on. So give me a minute here, will you? Well, the first thing I'll do is I'll just cut me off a section that is about the right size but longer than what I need so that I can trim it down to fit perfect. When I'm cutting them, you can use different things. So if I'm just cutting off a short section, you can just use something like this. Now this isn't going to do a nice neat cut on you though. I suppose they have nicer longer ones of these. You could probably use a really sharp knife, miscellaneous other things like that. I go ahead and just use my angle grinder here, and I find that this gives me nice clean cuts. You do have to be a little bit careful, of course, and when this gets hot, the slag will burn you, so you do have to watch out for those things. So cut yourself off a short section and practice cutting this different ways with whatever you're cutting it with, and after you're confident, then go ahead and switch over to this. So I could use my old piece here and simply transfer that over. If you don't have them, then you're just going to need to eyeball it, maybe mark it, what haves. So I'll get this side started first. Now some of these, they get cut at a 45-degree angle. I think that this one right here is really the only one that does. Maybe these here slight angle. Now this, you definitely need to have a bit of a 45-degree cut on that. And the reason being is that if it was just straight like this, the protrusion will hit the fender right here, and then it'll start pulling this off. So you want to get a slight angle to match the door curvature, and then also get it at a 45, and then gently open up the door to make sure you got enough of a cut. So I'm going to go ahead and cut each of my pieces out, and then I'll go ahead and start sticking them up there, and we'll see how pretty it looks in just a minute. Okay, so in order to get these lines perfect, because this is just a barely of a slant, so just get some tape and put it over the end. Then you can go ahead and mark it with your marker, and then when you cut it, you won't do any damage to your nice shiny side right here, and it'll make it a little bit easier for you. So I just pulled the tape off of this and stuck it on, but after the fact, really probably what I should have done is only taken off a short section of the tape and gotten this glued down nice, and then worked the rest. And one of the reasons being is that this is not a solid piece. So when I was trying to hold this up here, it was sagging in the middle and such. So what I ended up having to do is have somebody hold it here in the front, just slightly away. Then I got my line up right here, I got my lines going here, and then I went ahead and continued my lines all the way out. Now you definitely want to make sure that you don't stick it on one side and then stick it on the other side and then try to stick it in the middle, because if this had a bunch in it, then you're going to be stuck with that bunch. It's going to get trapped in the middle. So you got to get one side secure and work your way to the edge. So for instance, on this right here, this is a smaller section here, so I can pull off the tape on both sides. Now, if I was to start right here in this curvature, sometimes that curvature will make this want to twist one way or the other. So what we're going to be doing is starting on our straight edge, having this all nice and solid, and then this won't fight us by much. So here I'm lifting it off of the fender with my fingertips, getting things to look pretty nice. I'll get this edge started first. I'm still holding this edge out a little bit, and then on like that. So really got to watch your curves right here. I'll get a little bit of extra tape on this to make sure it holds on there, and I might leave that on overnight. Really what I should have done is left this in the sun with that curvature in there. That would have made this a little bit easier and less likely to pop off. This glue does really stick on really hard though. Once you do get it on there, if you didn't like it and you had to pull it back on off again, you're probably going to mess on up and you're going to have to make the piece all over again. And also in that case, I got to admit it, it took me 4 times to get this guy just right. So you get extra of this and you got some mess up room. So probably practice on your smaller piece first, and then after you've conquered that, then you can go ahead and move on. So now let's see if we can open up our door and not have the catch here. So yeah, we got about 1/8 of an inch of clearance there, maybe just a hair more. So you can see if you were to cut that straight, that would have definitely popped that puppy on off of there. All right, so just take that in for a minute. Look at the difference between before and after. Even though the paint's still a little old and tired and miscellaneous things like that, just doing the trim almost looks like we've got a brand new truck. So it's all the little details that it takes to make your truck your truck. My name's David Welch. I'm here every single Tuesday. You make sure you check us on Facebook and Instagram, whatever they came up with last. Make sure you subscribe too, because next Tuesday I'll be here and I'll be doing something else cool. You're definitely going to want to see that, and you definitely need to learn so we can get your truck back on the road. We'll see you, man.